Welcome in joining Paddy Galloway to the Uncle Gold podcast. He will talk about YouTube and his journey, how he started, what he learned from YouTube, and give you some tips that might be useful on your journey as well if you're starting in that direction.
The Uncle Gold Podcast.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Uncle Gold podcast. My name is Borna Zuber. I'm the host of the show, and today I have a special guest on. I was really looking forward to this one. I've been talking to him for a while now, and I finally managed to convince him to come to the Uncle Gold podcast. Please everyone, welcome in joining Paddy Galloway to the Uncle Gold podcast. He will talk about YouTube and his journey, how he started, what he learned from YouTube, and give you some tips that might be useful on your journey as well if you're starting in that direction. Paddy, welcome to the Uncle Gold podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and sorry it took so long to get it put together. I think we've been talking about it for about 6 months or something.
Yeah, it's been a while, but hey, it's not a problem at all. Some things just takes time, and it's important to get it done, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's getting done now, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm sure the audience has seen some of your videos online, but just in case someone's listening and hasn't seen it, can you tell us a little bit like who you are, what you do, and kind of how your whole journey got started?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose where should we start? Like I'm from Carlow. I'm 24 years old at the moment, and basically since I could hold up a camera, I've been interested in video. And like, you know, when I was like 10 years old, I saw YouTube becoming a thing, and I saw like this whole new platform where people were literally sharing videos. And obviously as a child who loved videos and I loved recording and making my own things, I saw it as an opportunity to share and to connect with other people and build audiences, even at that age. So very young, I decided, you know, I want to see what I can do with this YouTube thing. And I started multiple channels when I was very, very young, like in my teenage years and my early adolescence years, I suppose. Started multiple channels, whatever I was interested in at the time. So like I had a fitness channel at one point. I had multiple music channels for each genre of music I was into. I had like a prank channel that I had with my brother. I had all these different channels, and just each time I just was obsessed with how can I make better videos for people? How can I grow an audience? And how can I have a lot of fun as well? And back then, of course, you know, YouTube wasn't really seen as a place to make money. It was more of a place to, you know, share content, just have a bit of fun. Again, I was 12, 13, 14 years old, so I wasn't really thinking with that business mindset. But over time, I've just continued to do what I'm doing and build new channels, start new channels. I started a channel called IRMTV in 2014, which was an Irish hip hop channel. And I actually grew that channel to about 120,000 subscribers. I actually haven't checked exactly what it's on now, but it's somewhere around that range. And that was my first kind of, I suppose, commercial project, because over time, like when I shot my own videos, I could monetize them myself. And also I did like deals with artists for distribution and promoting their services or promoting their music through services and stuff like that. And that was still while I was in school when I started that. I think I was 18 when I first dipped my toe into that, 17 or 18. And since then, like I went to college and studied a marketing and business degree in DCU. And I kept the YouTube thing in the background. And so the current channel, which is what you found me from, and it's what most people know me from, and just my name, Paddy Galloway. And that channel I started about 6 years ago, and I started originally by just posting videos on how much certain YouTubers make. So I posted about 20 videos about like how much is PewDiePie making and how does he make his money and stuff, because these were really high traffic search terms. A lot of people were trying to figure out this stuff, like how is PewDiePie making so much money, like what was the actual business behind YouTube. So I started making these little really short videos. You know, I was probably about 20 years old at the time, just made these really short videos, recorded them really quickly, uploaded them. And I got a bit of momentum with the channel. Like I had maybe a few 100,000 views, like a few thousand subscribers, but nothing serious, nothing concrete. And then I decided, so I was watching this YouTuber at the time called Peter McKinnon, and he was growing really fast, and he was growing really fast in a really competitive niche as well, like photography, videography. He really just basically went from 0 to 1 million in the space of a year. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting story. And I wanted to personally look into it myself to see what I could learn from it. So I just went through his channel, went through his uploads, and like wrote like a kind of essay for myself with loads of notes about, you know, how he grew his channel, what he was doing, what was the strategies he was using. And I kind of looked at it sitting on my computer, like this page of notes. And I was like, I could actually turn this into a video, and maybe that would be, you know, useful to other people as well. And so that's what I did. I made my first kind of I suppose, YouTube breakdown, instead of these kind of really quick, easy to make, how much does this person make, where it's like a screen recording of Social Blade or something where I'm like analyzing how much they could make. It's very, very quick and easy to make content. I spent a lot of time on this Peter McKinnon video. I spent about 30 hours writing the scripts, building into a whole sort of animation feel with really good points, and made sure my voiceovers are really good and everything like that. I just spent lots of effort into it. I uploaded it to my channel, and within the first day, it got about 30 views. And at the time, like, I was used to getting maybe a few thousand views per video. And I just was like, wow, maybe, maybe people don't care about this. Maybe it's just me that loves the kind of the nerdy sort of data and science behind growing on YouTube. And I was like, oh, maybe there just isn't a market for this. So I actually just kind of forgot about that channel for a week or two. I just said, I was still in college at the time. I think I was in first year of college. So I was, focusing on my studies, and I was like, you know what, maybe this YouTube thing isn't for me. Maybe it's not my thing. Maybe I should just focus on college and, getting a job and getting kind of traditional skills and all that usual stuff. And then I just checked back 2 weeks later, just randomly, to see, did it pick up any momentum? And it was on 60,000 views. And I was like, oh damn, like maybe there is something here. Yeah. And then Peter McKinnon himself actually retweeted it and said, he really enjoyed it. I got a lot of other people commenting, like a lot of other big YouTubers commenting on it and saying they really enjoyed it. And then within a matter of about a month, it was on about 300,000 views. So from a channel with, I had a few thousand subscribers, averaging about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 views a video. That was pretty insane. Like, I was like, wow, this one video did 300,000 views. It brought me in like an additional 10 or 15,000 subscribers. And I was like, that's incredible. And that video today is now actually on 1 million, which is pretty insane. And so I just realized there was potential there, and there was an audience of people that, I suppose, loved the science behind growing on YouTube, and loved how I analyzed YouTubers and used a lot of my own experience. So obviously, through starting all these channels through my childhood and through running IRMTV, which was a pretty big channel at its peak anyway, I had a unique perspective where a lot of other small YouTubers might just look at a channel and kind of think, oh, I wonder, like, was it just a collaboration? Like, did he just get lucky with a viral video? Like, what's the actual, strategy he used? So I think I could provide something different. I did provide something different, did really well. And because I was in college at the time, and also because I was still, when you're 20, you're still not fully developed in your head. Like, you still don't make really smart decision making. I didn't like fully capitalize on it. I like kind of just sort of think, oh, that's cool, but I didn't actually fully see the potential. So even though this video was making me like decent money off one video, and I was getting a lot of subscribers, I didn't really see the bigger picture. And I just kind of, I uploaded a few sporadic videos. So I uploaded another video on Casey Neistat. So this was when this first Peter McKinnon video was uploaded. That was September 2017. And the Casey Neistat video was December. So as you can see there, huge gap in my content. That was because I was in college. I was doing exams, doing study and all that sort of stuff. It was getting in the way of things. So huge gap, which I still kind of regret today, because I wonder if I didn't take that gap, would I be even bigger now, or would I have a much larger audience? And there, probably not, but I always kind of tease myself about it. But a big gap. And then after that, I uploaded another video in February, so another big gap. And since, like, after that, I kind of just fell out of love with it. And I still find it hard to pin why I stopped making the videos, because they were doing really well. And like, everyone asked me, everyone always said to me, keep making them, like, they're doing really well, like, why did you stop? And I think it was a few things. Like, it wasn't really that motivating for me at the time. I just didn't really enjoy the process as much. And also, like, again, I was 20, 21, and I didn't really have the perspective, and I didn't really realize how hard it was to make a living and to, like, work hard and 9 to 5, and how I was actually being able to make this much money through these videos. Like, that's a real blessing. I took it for granted in a way.
Yeah.
So like, I actually, that summer, then I got a job, a 9 to 5, 9 to 6, basically office job in a social media agency. And it was great fun. Like, I learned a lot, had, made good friends for life, really, like, really, really good time. But I realized, all this work I was putting into this office job was actually making me less money than these videos could make me if I just actually focused on them and I got into a proper rhythm. So then the next year, 2019, I just sort of made a sort of pact to myself that when I left that office job, which I did in summer 2019, so it's June 2019, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this YouTube thing more seriously. And I uploaded a video in August that did pretty well. Another video in September that did quite well. And I kind of kept a bit of momentum. And then December 2019, I uploaded a video that literally changed everything for my channel. Like I was on about 40,000 subscribers at the time, averaging maybe, I suppose, like 100,000 views a month. And I uploaded one video that in the space, like the video today has got 5.5 million views, but in the space of literally 2 weeks, it generated 3 million views or something like that. And it just, the definition of going viral, like it was one of the most insane things to ever experience. You've just made something, you just upload it to the internet, and then within the space of, a week or two, millions of people are seeing the content. You're making thousands of euros in ad revenue as well, of course. You're also getting thousands, like in that month alone, I gained like 30 or 40,000 subscribers too. So literally within the space of 2 weeks, my channel just doubled in everything. Revenue, subscriber size, interest, views, everything just completely doubled in the space of a few weeks. And yeah, since then, like all last year, all 2020, I've just tried to keep the momentum up, keep the quality really high, which is why I don't have like really regular posting, but also just keep a nice flow of videos through. And those videos have opened really nice opportunities for me. So like at the moment, I've positioned myself as a YouTube consultant. Like I'm into YouTube, into data, into monetization, how to grow. And now I work with some pretty big channels. Like I work with some channels with well over 1 million subscribers on their strategy, doing consulting with them, and even like things like coming up with video ideas and thumbnails. And yeah, like I suppose that was a really long synopsis of my story so far, but that's kind of where we are today. Very, very lucky, but also I think a lot of it's down to the fact that I really do love YouTube. And since I was 12, this is what I wanted to do. So it's not like a money grab. It's not like something I just saw as an opportunity. It's something I kind of realized is, it's me. It's my passion.
Yeah, awesome. I love the summary, man. I feel that you have a really good knack for putting summaries together, and it sounded really well, and you structure things properly. So when someone's listening to it, he can really get a lot of info out of it. All right, let's unpack that a little bit. So you said that you started working in the social media company. Do you feel that work helped you in like understanding also how to connect the YouTube videos more to the internet through social media? Or do you think that just following these YouTubers online and learning from them made a bigger impact on your channel?
That's a really good question. That's a very good question. It's actually something I haven't really thought about before. Like I think there's a few things. So like it's kind of that Steve Jobs quote of like it's easy to connect the dots looking backwards.
Yeah, backwards.
It's kind of like it's really true. Like it's really like it's a good way of viewing things. So like my mother is a lecturer and a teacher basically. So she she lectures in Carlow College in history and English, and from that I think I learned a lot about how to teach and how to storytell. And I was always good at English in school. It was always my favorite subject. So I suppose on one side I had the creative side of me that was really into YouTube, creating content, and also like side hustles and businesses and stuff like that as well. And then the other side I had this sort of better descriptive side of me that could write a story, knew like what sort of language to use and stuff like that. So that was kind of like a cocktail of good skills together that helped the videos, because maybe a lot of people understand the technical side of things, but they can't actually convey that through their own words as well as they'd want to. And maybe that was an advantage starting out. But as for the work in the agency, so I don't know if it contributed exactly to the way I break down the videos at all, because like a lot of the work I did there was kind of like with ad campaigns and PR and stuff like that. But it definitely helped me understand the wider sort of business landscape behind businesses and behind YouTube and social media, because again, at the time, I sort of saw this channel as something that I could make a bit of side income for. But after working, the 9 to 5, and after like connecting with a lot of other entrepreneurs and other people, I realized, wow, there's like really big potential here. Like 10 times what I thought was possible is possible.
And when you look at these, like because you're analyzing the biggest YouTubers out there, what's kind of the most valuable things that you learned from them? Because I have a feeling that when people start their YouTube channel, they're just enthusiastic about creating videos and they don't put a lot of strategy behind it. And then afterwards, where they kind of get to a point where they're not progressing fast enough, then they're kind of go like, maybe I should rethink this, and kind of try to Google like how to make better thumbnails or what other people are doing. And then they kind of get into this whole process of improving their videos and their processes and everything. What are some of the processes that you improved on your way? And I'm sure there's a lot there. But what are the main things that you learned from these big guys?
Well, yeah, there's a lot to kind of unpack and go through. And luckily as well, I've actually had the pleasure of talking with a lot of the YouTubers I've covered, and just having conversations and learning a lot from them. But like, I think something you said there was like a lot of people start enthusiastically and they're not really putting much strategy behind it. Like that's a problem, but it's also a good thing at the same time, because really, if you look at most big channels, except anomalies, and when you're starting, you shouldn't really be focusing on anomalies. You should be looking at the majority. So
Yeah.
when there's really big channels like over 1 million plus subscribers, the vast majority of them uploaded 50 or 100 videos before they actually had any real like momentum or traction. I think that's so important to keep in mind. And even like someone could look at a channel like mine and say, you've only got like 15 videos and you're on 200K subscribers, but how many videos did I upload in the 12 years I was doing YouTube before that? Because it's probably over 1,000 if I added it up, So that is a big thing people need to take into consideration. And like, I think like the things I talk about and the things I learn from big YouTubers about optimizing videos, thumbnails, good thumbnails, obviously getting good retention of videos, that's important. But before anything, you need to work on your product. And the best way to work on your product is just to keep making better versions of it each time. So each video, like, make it a few percent better. And that's something like I've learned from Mr. Beast as well, because he's obviously a huge YouTuber, just hit 50 million subs. And if you go through his older videos, like, he was literally posting videos for years before anyone even noticed. And he didn't complain. Like, it wasn't a case of like, oh, no one's paying attention to me, no one likes me. It's just like, I'm gonna do this. Like, this is what I love to do. And he just kept pumping out videos. And I think like that, before anything else, while it is kind of generic advice, that is so crucial. Like, before you really question the algorithm or what's going wrong or stuff like that, I really think it's important to just get that quantity right of actually getting enough videos out there to understand things. And then, like, as well, a really big realization that I think small YouTubers just have to come to terms with is the majority of people don't care about you. And like, I mean, they care about you being safe and well and healthy, obviously, but in terms of watching your content, they don't care. Like, people don't care unless you give them a reason to care. And the best way to give someone a reason to care is actually by making videos on a topic that they're interested in. So many of the big channels at the moment, they've grown, and it's a common theme throughout. And even with my channel, it's not because I started one day and I started talking about this is my YouTube strategy. It's because I talked about someone they knew about and they were interested in. And in the case of like even this Minecraft YouTuber Dream, he grew really big, like super fast, like one of the fastest growing YouTube channels in history, I think. And like his whole story is he kind of made videos for a while and he wasn't getting momentum, and he was just kind of making videos about himself and like his own gameplay and what he was doing. And then he switched it around and started making videos on trending topics. So whatever was trending in the Minecraft community, he'd make a video on. A different update would come out, he'd make a video on the update or something like that. And that was how he found that initial attention. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't really realize at the start. They just assume that they're making good content and that people are going to come. But people only click on videos and like watch videos if they're like interested in the first place. And it's hard to kind of get interest when people don't know who you are. It's a tough one. It's a tough realization to come to. There is, of course, exceptions to the rule as well. So one of my like pet peeves is when I give YouTube advice and someone's like, but what about that channel? Or well, what about this guy here? Like, he did it. And again, it comes back to that thing I said a minute ago. It's like, don't focus on anomalies. Focus on the vast majority of channels and the way they've done things. And a lot of channels in recent years, to find that initial attention, whether it be Graham Stephen in the real estate niche, if you go through his old videos, so many of them were like based on, is this guy a scam? Is this product worth buying? Is this guy, or meeting this $1 million man, or meeting this guy from Shark Tank, doing things like that, where if I'm a viewer, I can see that and not know who Graham is, but still be interested. Whereas a lot of people that make content about themselves, and if I see them, I'm like, I don't know who he is, and I don't really care what he has to say, as cruel as that sounds. So yeah, that's kind of, I suppose, the getting the consistency there and just really focusing on improving each video incrementally. 1% of video makes a lot of improvement over time. And then also realizing people don't really care as much as you think they do, which is harsh, but it's the truth.
It's true. Yeah. People care about certain stuff that are like interesting to them. And I think search is kind of the easy way to get in front of people. If you're know what the trends are, as you said, Dream jumped on a lot of trends, and a lot of YouTubers do that. They see a trend popping up and then they search the keywords and terms that are being used in relationships to that trend that's popping up, and then they position their video where the trend is going, right? And that's how they get picked up. like that's a question that's been burning for me. Like, if somebody has a niche channel for something, how do they jump on trends if it's not in their kind of like domain of their niche, right? Like if you're doing a cooking channel, it's hard to jump on a new Tesla that's coming out, right? And I think that some people might struggle with that, where they kind of like orient their channel in the wrong way, whereas they should just like stick to their own thing, kind of.
Yeah, no, you're that's a very good question. That's a very good question. And the real thing is, like, people that jump around too much between formats and just try to chase what's trending, they have the opposite effect. Like, you know, it just results in, even if a video did take off, so if you've got a cooking channel and then you start making a video about a Tesla or whatever, and try to incorporate that with your content, then if that did take off and did do well, then you're just gonna have an audience that like Tesla videos. They're not gonna like cooking videos. So there's no point making videos on trending topics unless it's related to your niche. And there will be niches where it's a lot harder to do that, but I'd still challenge that and say that every niche has like high traffic search terms. So like, I suppose like a new recipe could come out, something could be trending on social media. So for example, if you're a cooking channel, why couldn't you do like testing TikTok, you know, meal hacks in real life? Like, that's a video idea right there. I'm sure someone's done it, but that's a video idea right there that could get thousands of views. And it's taking a trending topic, but it's applying it to your niche. I mean, as well, like there's obviously bigger YouTube channels in the cooking niche. So you could, if you're a small cooking channel, you could make a video saying, testing this YouTuber's recipe, here's how good it really is, reviewing this YouTuber's cooking style or whatever. Like, just find ways to do it, but it has to be aligned to your content. Because the way of viewing it is, you are putting yourself in front of the audience you want to have. So before you do anything, you need to identify what's the audience you want to have, like what's the target audience for your content. And I think so many people are just trying to just grab attention from anywhere, but YouTube's algorithm, and also just how things work with YouTube, is you want the right people watching your videos. It's useless to me if I'm getting loads of people who don't care about YouTube watching my videos. Like, I don't care if I get millions of views a video. If the right people aren't watching it, that doesn't really matter. Like, I already said, like, said this to someone else I was chatting to yesterday, actually. I was like, yeah, like, I get decent video views. I get about 500,000 views on average per video in 2020. I think it was 550,000 per video, which is insane to me. But the real value there and the real important views are like the 50,000 views that come from small YouTubers that really like my content, like kind of casuals that just check it out. That's cool as well. And you're very welcome. I love you all. But the actual kind of 50,000 core supporters is what really matters. So to go back to that initial point, I think a lot of people make that mistake of just trying to, you know, force trends into their content. And maybe someone like me who talks about trend jacking and how to like build up exposure through that should kind of clarify that a bit better, because it has to be related to your niche. So you're thinking about, what are your audience watching? Let's see if we can make a video related to that, or in line with that, or some way to incorporate that into our video, so we get our audience, but we don't get another audience. We don't want Tesla fans on a cooking channel.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. I sort of made a mistake when I started this YouTube, my first YouTube channel. I speak 3 languages, and my initial thought was like, all right, if I do the same video in 3 languages over and over again, like I'll attract 3 different audiences, right? And I'll get like from all 3 sides, but it's really not working in that way. And YouTube was doing a really bad job actually of distributing the right language to the right audience. So my friends here from Ireland would say, oh, we get your creation videos, like we can't understand them. Like it doesn't make sense, right? So the right way to do it would be to create 3 channels, each one in a different language, and then do the video like that. So if you're from Ireland, you can watch the videos in English. If you're from Croatia, you can watch the videos in Croatian. And I didn't even think about search and stuff like that. I didn't prepare at all. I was actually a little bit mad at myself because I wanted to start YouTube in 2011. And then I found out somewhere that Croatia is not on the list of countries that can get their channel monetized at all. It's not
Really?
but that was a long time ago. So now they can do it. But at that time, I didn't even post a single video, and I just gave up. And I was looking at it from afar for a few years now. And then in 2019, I kind of said, all right, it's enough of waiting around. And I just took my phone, and I kind of started, as you said earlier, trying to do a little bit of everything, vlogging, which is really, really hard at the start. And it kind of didn't work. Like just a few views, and then I removed the two other languages and focused just on one. And I try to do more videos on the same topic that got the most amount of views. So in Croatia, the economy is really not that good. So a lot of people were thinking about moving to Ireland. So they wanted to see how it is before they get there, right? So the videos where I did info about how to move to Ireland and stuff with just logistics and how things work were the most popular ones. And then people started clicking more of those, and I started doing more of those, right? And then I'm building an audience for that, right? And I didn't do enough research on what people are doing, but when I found out that like you can use keywords to kind of direct your videos towards that, then I would reverse the process and be like, all right, if I were to move to Ireland now, what would I look for, right? And then I would look for key terms that are associated with that, and then find what people are looking for, and then try to make videos about that. And that's where I'm kind of at right now. But also this podcast is kind of like directed more in the personal development and mindset ideas, and it's on English because I feel that more people are listening to English podcasts than Croatian ones, right? So that's pretty obvious there, because you can reach a lot bigger audience. So I kind of wanted to ask you, like, how do you approach researching a topic or a YouTuber or a trend that's popping up? Like you mentioned in the last video that you did that you watched all of Eroc's videos. And when I listened to that, like I looked at his channel and I'm like, that's a lot of videos. Like, how much time do you invest in researching a single video or a single topic, or how do you approach it?
That's the biggest time suck. So that's what I spend the most amount of time on, because if like it sounds like a small thing, but I think if I'm doing these videos and I have any bit of bad information, or if I'm trying to draw conclusions from a too small sample size of videos of the channel, then I could get called out for it, or I'm just not providing good value to the audience. And so like a big part of what I do is watch as many videos as possible. And yeah, Eric's got a lot of videos, but luckily it wasn't like Mr. Beast. With Mr. Beast is like over 1,000 videos, so I didn't have to watch all Mr. Beast videos. But yeah, I kind of sped through all of Eric's videos. I like analyzed every title, thumbnail, what he did over time, and I tried to see patterns over how he'd changed his content and what I tried to put myself in his shoes. Like why did he suddenly pivot to do this? And then I was like, okay, his realization there was maybe the kind of stealing audiences thing that I talked about in the video. And like that's kind of really triggered a different kind of content for his channel. So my typical research process is, obviously I identify the YouTuber I'm going to make the video on. And I suppose anyone listening, or you yourself as well, you can kind of follow a bit about what I do with whatever your niche is. So like identify the trend. In my case, is identify the YouTuber early on that I want to cover, and give some like rationale behind why I'm doing it. So with Eric, for example, if you notice, a lot of my videos, they're timed. So like Eric had just hit 1 million subscribers in 1 year, and that's when I released the video. Even like say like David Dobrik, the video I made last February, that was just when David Dobrik was like at his peak, just before he quit doing daily vlogging. So that was a great time to make a video like about David Dobrik's rise and his sort of success. Likewise, Logan Paul, he kind of took over the vlogging environment in sort of June-ish, May, June, and that's when I made my 2 videos on Logan Paul. So like I make sure that each time I make a video, there's a rationale behind it. So like, why this trending topic now? Like, why am I doing this video now? And also, can I make a story from it? So there's no point just identifying someone that you think will get views and then not being able to build a really good, thoughtful video from it. So that's really important. So first thing I do before anything is, can I think of a good title and a good thumbnail for this video, like in my head, before I even write a word, or before even before I do research? In a lot of times, can I think of a good title and thumbnail? I do that first. When I'm happy with the title and thumbnail I've kind of roughly come up with, which of course can be changed later if I need to, then I start the research phase. And the research phase is basically, I basically usually spend about a week where I just like watch their content, like write notes. I also really pay attention to like interviews they've done, because a lot of people won't reveal much on their channel, but when they're actually in an interview, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is what I did, or this is my story. And you can kind of build, I suppose, a picture for yourself of how that channel grew. And I just do that for about a week. Then I start to write the script and build out the scripts. That takes a bit of a while too. And actually the editing and animation is probably the shortest part of the process. But luckily I have kind of a structure to my videos. So like I have what I call an intro, obviously. That's just like the kind of hook in the first, usually 20 or 30 seconds for me. And if you notice my videos, I always try to like start with a one-liner that's really attention grabbing. So I'll say something like, this guy has cracked the code to growing a YouTube channel, or I've never been a big fan of Logan Paul. Here's why. Like things that need resolving. Like a lot of people start their videos with just a really flat sentence. If you can start your videos with something that just needs resolving, that the viewer needs to resolve. So like, why doesn't he like Logan Paul? Or why what has Eric done that's cracked the code? Like what's this guy done? Or, you know, calling Mr. Beast a YouTube genius. Like why is he a genius? Like starting the video with that is really important. So like I have a structure for every video. I have the intro hook, then I go into the setup where I give more context on how the video is gonna do, and then I just use listicle format. So 1, 2, 3, 4 basically steps. But in terms of research process, like just literally kind of absorbing as much of the content as I can, and then using my own experience with YouTube to analyze. So I think a lot of people could try do what I do, and a lot of people do try do what I do. I've got a lot of copycats at the moment actually making videos almost exactly like mine with the same titles and same thumbnails, but obviously that's cool, like that's just part of the game. But I notice like a lot of their channels, while of course I'm not the biggest expert in the world, I'm no genius, or I don't even think I'm really that smart at all. Like I just think I found a good subject area. But I think what I can do differently than a lot of other channels is I have proof points. So I have like credibility to what I'm saying, in that I work with channels generating over 100 million views a month, like over 1 billion views a year. I've built multiple channels myself. I started making money on YouTube when I was 17. I have all these kind of different, I suppose, relevant experience. So instead of just starting from zero and talking about how a YouTuber has grown, I can be like, I'm a YouTuber. I've done this all my life. I do this with clients. This is how this person has grown, in my opinion. And I think that's probably the biggest differentiator for my content is people luckily respect my views and think that it's accurate in most cases.
Yeah, I agree. Tell me, when I now think like how the journey started for you, and I think of like small YouTubers that just want to get into it, like we obviously established that they're going to make a lot of mistakes and that it's a long learning curve and process. What are some of the first things that YouTubers do wrong and that they could maybe improve when they're starting their channel out?
Okay, there's a lot. There's a lot of things small YouTubers do wrong. So just on the surface level, so let's take away the kind of the cliche stuff of making more videos and stuff like that. Let's just look at like actual, I suppose, technical things. So first of all, the vast majority of YouTubers don't make good titles. Of small YouTubers don't make good titles. They're not concise enough in the titles, and they don't clearly state the video. I suppose the video's unique value, the value proposition of the video. Like if I'm browsing through my feed and I see a title, I want to be able to read it really clearly. So it has to be easy and reasonably short. Like you see like some titles that are a bit longer do well, and like some titles are like split into 2 sections with like a brackets. Like I do that with my videos a lot. But what I notice just looking at my channel, like every video is just really clear what the video is going to be. So like how Eric did this, how Mark Rober beats the YouTube algorithm, why Mr. Beast is a genius. Like you're just reading, you know, it's almost conversational. You read that and you're like, wow, like how, like that's interesting. And right away, you know what the unique value of the video is. So a lot of people kind of, they almost like title their videos like it's a music video or something. Like they say like, you know, my first vlog, going to the park, or you know, things like that. Whereas it's like, how are you ever going to rank for any of those search terms? And how are you ever going to, I suppose, get the click from someone that doesn't know you? I don't care if you went to the park, you know, maybe you could title that video something better, like taking a trip to the park and this happened, or, you know, something to kind of capture the view a bit more. But really the first mistake YouTubers make is in titles. And as a general rule, I say, try to keep it under 60 characters. Not always, it can't always be the case. I've got videos with over 60 characters on my channel, but I think as a general rule, keep it under 60 characters because that keeps it nice and concise. And it also means that it'll be displayed on the suggested and browse features. So like the audience would be able to read the title without any bits being cut off. And that's really important. And as well, just use language that people use. Don't try overcomplicate it too much, and don't try hype it up too much either, because obviously it's important to sell yourself in your title, but so many people like do like really like clickbait things with like loads of exclamation marks and all caps, and it works for some channels, but for the vast majority, I think just being clear and concise and just saying, this is the video. This is why you should watch the video. This is the value of the video. click it. Like you just have to click it. It's brilliant. Just watch it. It's this simple. And that's definitely a big mistake.
Sorry for interrupting there. What do you think about super short titles, like doing something like "I quit," and the angry thumbnail, and just like 2 words in the title?
So those work really well for big channels, especially because just obviously you probably already know a bit about this, but just for context, like big channels get the majority of their traffic through browse features, which is essentially through YouTube Home and just YouTube recommended coming up in feed. Whereas smaller channels have to rely a bit more on search and suggested in general anyway. So like, for example, like if you say a title like "I quit," that's obviously not going to rank in search very well unless people are searching for your channel in particular. And also, as a suggested video, it's hard for YouTube to categorize that just from the title. Like what sort of audience should they push this to if it just says "I quit"? Because it could be "I quit jujitsu," it could be "I quit cooking," it could be "I quit Tesla." It could be anything in a way. But it is good for bigger channels and for also channels that have an existing audience base to try those really concise titles that just don't give too much information. It's kind of like Casey Neistat style, because the viewer's going to be like, they're not going to, in some ways, when you're small, you need to tell the audience what the video is going to do. And then sometimes when you're bigger, it might be a case of sort of saying, click on this because there's something going to be good in it, but you might not know what it is. So you're more enticed to click. But yeah, that's kind of my feedback on that.
Yeah, so not on smaller ones. All right. Is the titles the only thing that YouTubers are doing wrong when they're starting your channel?
No, definitely not, unfortunately. Thumbnails as well. Like it's like everything on YouTube. There's multiple ways to do it. There's a million ways to make a good thumbnail, and it's hard to give completely generic advice that just covers everyone. But in general, small YouTubers use way too much text in their thumbnails. They use text that's too small. A lot of small YouTubers and big YouTubers will be making their thumbnails on Photoshop or on some sort of graphic design software on their computer, and they have it quite big and zoomed in, and then they don't really think that the end user is more than likely going to be viewing this on the phone. They're not going to really, it's not only that they won't read the text, but it's also just small text doesn't grab your eye as much. So like you can easily scroll by small text. If it's really big text, that's going to grab your eye more. And I like, especially with some of the clients I work with, I like having no text. I just like having clear visual representation of what's happening. Obviously, different channels need some text. Like for example, my videos, I kind of need that extra text to give more context to the video and to give kind of an extra bit of clickbait in a way to kind of make someone just say, wow, I need to click this. But for a lot of the channels I work on, like a lot of my clients, I just sort of say, let's try make this as minimum as possible, 1 to 3 words, but in many cases just 0 and just showing visual representation. And that's another thing. So I did a little channel review for someone that just DM'd me on Twitter the other day, and they had a video where it was like 57 tips for Uber drivers, how to become the best Uber driver or something like that. Some title, something like that. And their title was just the guy sort of standing there on camera with the car beside him. And I was like, an infinitely better thumbnail for this would be if you were inside the car with a bag of food, driving the car, looking at the camera, something like that to visually represent the video. Because like if you're just standing beside a car, like I don't know from looking at that thumbnail necessarily what the video is going to be. He did use the Uber Eats logo or something in there, so obviously there's a bit of foreshadowing over what the video is going to be. But that's a huge thing. Like people just don't seem to capitalize on that well enough, and they don't seem to realize that we need to visually show what's happening a lot of the time. And someone like, I always say Matt Diavella is a great example because he uses really minimal thumbnails, but so many of his thumbnails are just showing the process of what's happening. So obviously if it's it's a big announcement video, it might be just his head on the camera, but often it's like him writing in a journal, him in the middle of action. And then instead of like text, that's just showing you what's happening. So he could make that thumbnail of just like a headshot, say like me at the screen here, and then like text here, just saying like why I started journaling. And yeah, it might do okay. But if it's a video of him like visually like journaling and showing the representation of that process, it shows the viewer you're for real and that the video is going to be dynamic and it's not just going to be a boring head to the face camera for the whole video. So that's, thumbnails are another thing. Also brightness. So like in general, bright thumbnails get more clicks. There's lots of data to show that I've run and I've heard other people run as well. So in general, brighter thumbnails catch the eye better, more vivid colors. Like you'll notice in my videos, I use quite high saturation on the on the channel or on the thumbnails. If you look at the recent Airac one, I bumped up the saturation. I kind of made his eyes pop, so it's really like eye catching. And then there's the dark black, the dark red, the line going up, the white background. lots of contrast and lots of saturation on human faces. And that's another thing. And also a huge pet peeve of mine is thumbnails that aren't zoomed in enough. So like a lot of the time, the subject material, whether it could be literally a pizza for a cooking channel, or it could be a person working out for a workout channel or a fitness channel, and it's too zoomed out. Whereas it's literally just so much better to punch that in more and just have the person taking up more of the frame. So even you might have even seen this on my channel. I've kind of changed that over the years, where my more recent thumbnails, I have just a really like punched in version of the headshot of the person. And then I have like my graph and stuff beside it. But like if you're everything's kind of zoomed out with a thumbnail and you're like really far back, and like there could be text there, you're really far back. Whereas if you're like really close in, it makes a big difference to the audience, because they're just seeing eye contact right away, and they're seeing someone in their face in a way. And that's another big mistake. I'd also say probably the other area. So I was to say the biggest three areas, obviously titles, thumbnails, but also the start of the video. So like the first 30 seconds are so crucial. And every small YouTuber, not every small YouTuber, but so many small YouTubers have this habit of like over introducing themselves and over kind of like taking too long to get into the action. So if I've clicked on a video for a cooking video, I want to get in the action as quickly as possible. I want to see cooking. I don't want to see like a big sort of static headshot of them talking about like their experience and what they're going to do. Show me, don't tell me. That's something I always ask small YouTubers to think about, is show me, don't tell me. Like you can tell me forever like what you're going to do and why you're so great, but what about if you actually just get into the action quicker? And then while you're in the action, you can give more context. So you can tell me about your experience as a chef. You can tell me about what's going to happen next. But if you're actually showing me something visually stimulating, I'm much more likely to click off. Because in retention curves, it's just a universal fact across YouTube. The biggest part people click off a video is the first 30 seconds. And you need to view those 30 seconds so valuably. You need to be so rootless with what's in there, and you really need to just grab the attention early on. And some people almost see it as like a throwaway. It's like, oh, I'm just going to make 30 seconds of kind of random chat and just say a few things and be like, oh, hey, welcome to my channel, and then roll an intro that lasts for 15 seconds, and then go back and say like, okay, today we're going to do, like, why don't you just start with, today we're going to do this, and then do it, instead of actually spending too long introducing the video. And so those are like, obviously pacing in videos and keeping a video dynamic is the word I use. So making sure there's varied cuts, there's like zooms, there's different angles. If it's just a roll of a camera, like making sure it punches in and punches out, like some memes, black and white filters when you say something, or awkward silences, just things to give it more feel and more engaging for the viewer. Because a lot of the time, just a static shot without good pacing is just super boring, and it just people just click off. And obviously you know from watching my videos, and anyone else watching, like YouTube care about CTR and then retention. So getting people to click and getting people to stay on the video. And you might get the best title and thumbnail in the world, but if you're not actually getting people to stay, it's not going to get promoted. It's not going to do well. So yeah, those are kind of the main problems I see with smaller YouTubers.
All right. Watch time, like you mentioned that in the last part here, it is really the biggest one. I try to think about it a lot, and I always think like, what's the type of person that watches until the end, and what do they want to see in the video, right? I love the channel Think Media from Sean Cannell, and I don't know if you know them, but they do also teach a lot about YouTube. And I love his sentence where he says minutes matter most. And that kind of convinced me that like it doesn't matter like how many views you get at the start, because if nobody watches the video, then the views kind of don't matter, because if nobody watched the video, then what's the point, right? So yeah, like what do you say to people, like how to increase the watch time, how to keep people watching until the end, and what are some of the tips that are people doing wrong there that they can improve?
Okay, so before anything, it needs to be a good video, because people just aren't going to watch a good video, obviously. So let's just get that out of the way, because that's obviously the biggest thing. So like you could make a really good video idea, but then edit it like kind of not so well, and maybe not have the best practices for retention, and still get good retention because the idea is so good. But if you've got like a bad video idea, it doesn't matter what you do, people just aren't going to be interested, in my opinion anyway. So like, yeah, before anything, establishing that and making sure your ideas are interesting to the viewer. And that's a hard skill to nail down. And me as a YouTube consultant, that's the hardest one for me to work on with channels, because in general, I'm not the one coming up with the ideas. I'm the one showing them how to optimize them. But that's still the kind of the 80-20, like that's the kind of the main factor, what the video is actually going to be about and how you're going to structure it yourself. So let's get that out of the way first. But in terms of getting more retention, what I just said there about keeping people after 30 seconds is hugely important. So if you keep people after 30 or 40 seconds or after the minute mark, they're much less likely to click off. Think about yourself. Like when you click on a new video, the most likely you are to click off is at the start. And if you don't click off at the start, there's a good chance you're going to stay around and watch a bit longer.
Yeah.
So addressing those titles, but really structuring your video so that the real payoff for your video is at the end where possible. So like say, for example, in Mr. Beast's case, he builds his video concepts and builds these incredible concepts and like gives you action from the minute one, but the ultimate payoff of the video is until the very end. So like whether it be him giving away something huge, that's at the very end of the video. And that just entices people to keep watching because they're waiting for that unresolved story. That's the way I call it, like unanswered questions or unresolved storylines. So how are you creating things that like lead into the video that make people, it's kind of impossible to click because you're not getting resolution as a viewer. So like even with my latest Airrack video, for example, I said something like around the 2-minute mark, I said, a bit later on this video, we're going to talk about some of the less innocent ways Airrack has grown his channel. Like that sentence in its own just automatically intrigues the viewer because like less innocent. Did he do something evil? Did he do something wrong? Or what's going to happen here? And then like I just say that's coming up, and it is coming up. It's coming up towards the end of the video. And like obviously I still have engaging content in between them, but just reminding the viewer that there's a reason you should stay around. Like you need to see this, that this is really important. And yeah, genuinely retention is something people struggle so much with. And so much comes down to the idea, but also how you structure video, how you break it down, like what's the scene by scene, and going through a video. And whenever there's any kind of filler content that isn't contributing to that story and progressing the story forward towards that payoff or that end of the video, it should be cut. Just get rid of it. And also another thing is like video length is a question I get a lot of questions about. Like what's the ideal video length? And it really matters. It really does depend on the channel type and the kind of content type you're making, because you see people being really successful with 5-minute videos, with 10-minute, 15, 20-minute videos. So it depends on your audience and your format. But in general, I usually recommend people to make videos over 6 minutes anyway, at the minimum. And I kind of like the 8 to 12-minute range, because if you can hold people for that long, that's a good sign to YouTube. You're making good content. And obviously, if we're talking pure AVD terms here, like in terms of average view duration, a longer video is going to, in general, hold people for longer than a short video. So you can get that metric up before anything. But a lot of people, in taking that advice and in hearing that, they then start to like add bits into the video just to fluff up the watch time. So that could be like a really extended outro. Whereas when you deliver the payoff of the video, and when you deliver the main point of the video, you just want to get out of it as quickly as possible. You want to cut that story, cut the video as quickly as possible and finish it up, because that's when viewers leave. And it's also the point where the viewers kind of got what they want from the video. So if you keep dwelling, they're just gonna be like, nah, I don't want to hear this anymore. But maybe if you end really quickly, they'll be like, I want to watch another one of his videos. Like I didn't get a full, I want to see some more of this. So that's a big mistake.
I love what you did in the last few videos, where you just put an arrow there and says like, YouTube thinks that you're going to like this video. Let's see if they're. I think that's a good one as well. Tell me, before we go into the next part here, if people want to follow your reach out apart from your YouTube channel, where can people get in contact? Or if businesses want to contact you, where are you most reachable?
It's funny because like I actually have a website built. It's not live at the moment. I'm just doing some changes on it, but all my business goes down on Twitter. That's where all my current clients reach out to me first, like every single one of them without fail. And I have some people like DM me on Instagram as well and stuff, but in general through Twitter or through my email, just paddygalloway1@gmail.com. And because on my Twitter is paddygg96. Like I think Twitter is like this generation's it's like this generation's meeting room or boardroom or LinkedIn or whatever. Like it's where so much of the kind of the business deals go down, and also just the chat, the networking. Just through my Twitter account, like I've got people following me with 5 followers and 50 million followers, and both of them have interesting things to say and interesting things to talk about with me. And that's how I get all my business. I could just put out a tweet. For example, the other day, I had a client who had first day performance on a video of like 520,000 views, just 1 out of 10, like within 24 hours with 520,000 views. And I just put out a tweet saying, we had a real dip on this channel recently, but we've just turned it around, and we've done like 10 million views this week. And I just put up a screenshot of that. And just from that tweet alone, I had multiple people reaching out to me and saying, oh, that was your client. Like, I'd love to do some work together. And actually at the moment, I'm pretty much fully booked out in terms of consulting and in terms of business work for anyone really, which is a good thing to be. I'm not complaining. It's a good place to be. But yeah, like I will build a nice little website and I'll further down the line. But I have a feeling that even when I do that, I'll still get most of my business through social media.
All right. We'll leave the links below for everyone watching in the comments. Tell me, Paddy, I worked in business development for a while now, and on a daily basis, I go through a lot of companies, and I see a lot of people telling companies to actually create YouTube channels for their company where they talk about what the company is doing and what their product is and how the whole thing works. But I don't see a lot of companies jumping on YouTube. Well, they are a lot of companies doing it already, but I have a feeling that it's not enough. Like when you're Googling some of the companies that just don't exist, and I feel that they're losing a lot of opportunities there and a lot of customers. What are your thoughts on that? Why more businesses are not jumping on YouTube as a company?
It's hard. And that's the main thing really, because social media is quite easy to execute reasonably well, because you're just posting like once a day or once every 2 days, and it's really quick, and it's quite easy to understand. And also a lot of the people that own companies are obviously quite older than maybe me and you. They're in their 50s and 60s, and a lot of people like that, they don't really understand YouTube and watch YouTube. They've heard to go on their newsfeed and see like Mr. Beast giving away like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're like, what is this guy even doing? Like, how is this popular? They don't even understand the kind of culture, I suppose. And YouTube is hard. So like you can do social media reasonably well, but YouTube requires effort. And YouTube requires, for a business, YouTube would literally require someone really going all in on it and like spending 10, 20 hours a week on their content. It's not the sort of thing you can just automate and just say, I'm just going to pump out videos really quickly. Obviously there's exceptions, but in general, like it needs that extra attention, and it needs videos that are planned out well and scripted, because how is a business going to compete with another person in their niche that's spending 50 hours a week on their content versus them just doing it in a few hours? So like, for example, actually, like there's this guy I know and I chat to him, he's got a woodworking channel. His name is Matt Estlea, or Estlea. I can't even pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce the second name, but his first name is Matt, which is the most important thing. And he's a woodworking channel. So he's like a carpenter, and like he works with like making handmade joints and handmade furniture and stuff. It's really nice. It's really cool. I find it really relaxing when I watch it. But he dedicates so much into YouTube, and he's all in on it. Like he uses YouTube to get in business outside of YouTube. It gets in leads. He's built out a newsletter. He's built out a whole sort of community of carpenters for his channel. And I suppose if you were just like a small furniture maker and you're just trying to compete with that, you've got no chance. And that guy, even while he's not the biggest in the world, he's got like 200,000 subs, gets like a few 100,000 views a month. And like that makes a big difference. Like he's got that momentum there. And I suppose if you're gonna take away some of the market share from these bigger channels, you need to be competing with them. And a lot of small businesses and even medium-sized businesses can't really allocate the resources. And that's not to say they shouldn't. That's a big difference. Like, that's not to say they shouldn't.
Yeah.
A lot of them just don't see the opportunity there. And like I compare YouTube, it's not like YouTube. People see YouTube as a social network a lot of the time, and obviously it is technically. And like maybe that's kind of what these business owners do think about, is they're like, okay, we can put out like minute-long videos on YouTube, which is really rough, and like we do on Instagram, and they do okay on Instagram, they do okay on YouTube. But YouTube is its own entity, and it's actually most like the kind of blogging space, as the blogging space took off in the mid 2000s. So for example, like, blogging and writing a blog got so popular in like the mid 2000s, and even up until like 2010, 2013, it was still kind of new and fresh. And like a lot of like big companies use that to start their growth. So Stripe, which is a company from, I think originally from Limerick, and they're in the US at the moment. They've got like a $30 billion valuation or something like that. And they started, and their like tool is just a payment processing tool, and they wrote blogs about like how to install Stripe, how to develop websites, how to do these things. And they were getting developers that would obviously find the blog posts, and then as a result of that, they'd also find out about Stripe, and they were like, oh, I could use this with my clients from now on. I could use Stripe. So they kind of identified their end customer through blog posts. And I describe YouTube quite similar, because YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world after Google. And a lot of other social media sites, it's 100% browse usually. Like it's 100% algorithm recommended content. And YouTube is that for like the big creators, But for small businesses and for like, you know, smaller creators as well, search is huge. Like I know channels with like 50, 60, 70% of their views come from search. And like that's an opportunity that people aren't really capitalizing on. And for example, if you are, this is a good example for you. For example, if you're an Irish accounting firm, which I actually talked to a guy who owns an Irish accounting firm and he does YouTube videos, and you know, he gets like 50, 100, 200, 300 views a video, which to a channel that relies on views for income is obviously not going to cut it. But in terms of referring sales, he's got so much business through just a few hundred views. And I kind of invite that to someone. Like if you're, say for example, if you're an accounting firm in Ireland or a lawyer firm in Ireland or whatever, like if you could make like helpful videos that are on what people are searching for, you could you'd be blown away by the leads you generate. And also there's a false perception that those leads will just be like, you know, kids or
15-year-old kids,
younger people, younger people without budgets. Even like, you know, like a lot of businesses, a lot of like firms, they want to work with a certain level. So like maybe it's like 100,000 a year or $1 million a year, whatever. And they might think that those people aren't looking on YouTube, but they are. Like people are literally like founders of companies, decision makers within companies are using YouTube for their information a lot of the time. And you're going to be losing out on competition. You're going to be losing business to competition if you're not taking it seriously. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, but like if you're like a pretty big business, it's definitely worth bringing in someone literally full time to help with that side of things, because it's more powerful than blog posts, in my opinion. It's much more powerful than any other social media. And yeah, it's underrated in my opinion.
I agree. That's why I asked you that question, because sometimes I've even struggled finding information about companies. Like I would try to contact them to work with them on something, and like their web pages would be like so poorly made that you would kind of have to really search on LinkedIn to find out what the company is actually doing. And I feel that in a 5-minute YouTube video, they can explain it like really properly and get a lot more people contacting them, you know, which will lead to more business, of course. But hey, all right, let's go back from companies a little bit back to you. Like since you're putting in a lot of effort into like finding all this information and all of that, like how does your daily routine look like? Do you structure your day out? Do you plan out weeks or months, or how do you approach that?
At the moment, it's quite unstructured, to be honest. Which isn't ideal, but it's kind of it's the pandemic. Like it's hard to keep that real structure to everything, because at the moment I feel like I'm always working and I'm never like not working, but at the same time when I'm working, I'm not as productive as I could be. So like I think I work really well when I have a structure where after a certain point I'm just not working, or after a certain point I'm just not doing anything related to work. I'm relaxing. But it's kind of hard to do that in the pandemic because, you know, you're just stuck at home, you're locked up. So in a way, I am working more, but it's just I'm spreading that work over so much of a long period of time. So like a typical day for me at the moment is kind of start working around 9 a.m. And then I try to get my most important work done in the morning. That was something I was told a few years ago, and I think it's so true. Like focusing on the most important section of your work to move the needle forward and to move your business forward first thing, so you can really give that your full attention. And then in the in the afternoons and in the evenings, I'll start to, you know, take calls, do like client calls, client work, and some other stuff that isn't as like mentally taxing as maybe researching and, you know, making a video, animating, editing a video. And as well, recently I've started to hire people. I've hired an editor and a data analyst to help with my clients as well. So I do a lot of the kind of like, you know, management of them, or like the chatting with them in the evenings, because if I was to do that first thing, it would just automatically put me in a kind of state of mind where I'm in distraction mode, where I'm like, this person needs this, or this client needs work on this, or like, you know, whatever, like things like that. Like I just like to keep those later in the evening. At the moment I like finish up work at kind of usually around 10 p.m, which is a long day, definitely a long day. And unluckily at the moment I don't really have weekends either. I'm usually working most days, but at the same time, the way I see it is like, I don't really like that whole kind of toxic sort of hustle sort of culture too much. Like I don't, like, it's important to work hard obviously, but my kind of place I'm trying to get to is where I can scale and what I'm doing, and kind of delegate so much that I don't have to work 60-hour, 70-hour weeks. I could literally just take my foot off the pedal a little bit and delegate that, and people can cover certain areas for me. But in the meantime, while I'm getting to that point, like it requires a lot of work. So yeah, kind of often 10, 12 hours days.
Awesome stuff, man. Good job on that. How do you like? I understand that it's important to relax and rest and get the energy back, but sometimes it's important to push ourselves, right? And especially like now during this whole like 2020 when everyone was at home, how do you get out of your comfort zone, and what do you do kind of to push your limits when you feel like it?
So what I do is I set goals for every quarter basically. So like I set goals, and what I do is I try to overextend myself in terms of the possibility of hitting the goals. So I'll set like a revenue goal or like a subscriber goal or amount of videos made goal or whatever. And I'll do it like purposely a bit out of reach. It's still achievable, but it's a bit out of reach. And then I have to like pick up the pieces and try to get there. And I really try to hold myself to it. And that's how I kind of stay motivated and like, I suppose, keep my finger on the pulse is just having those clear goals there, because I could get a bit too carried away with what I'm doing and think it's great, like how much I'm making at the moment or how much my channel's growing, and just kind of sort of say, I could just relax, I could just take my foot off the pedal and, you know, I could be fine. And I would be at the moment, but YouTube is there's a short life cycle to a YouTube channel usually. Even with really like educational based channels, a lot of them like, you know, they blow up and then over time they gradually decline, and maybe you want to move on to other things. And I think from the start, I've really realized that. So like if a YouTube life cycle is like 4 or 5 years, I want to make sure that while I'm, you know, really relevant with my content and while I'm growing and expanding, I want to deliver as much value as I can and also get as much for myself out of it as I can without, you know, ever feeling like I'm selling too much or asking for too much or anything like that. So yeah, like I want to give as much as I can in like 4 or 5 years, and I don't really need too much motivation for that. Like some days I will feel like a bit unmotivated, but like in general, it's just like a kind of like just what I do. Like it's just making videos is what I do. And you know, helping other people make their videos is what I do. And like I'll find myself just kind of not even really thinking about doing it. I'm just often just in the process of just getting stuck in. But like for getting out of my comfort zone, I think really like it's like taking what I'm weak at and just trying to expose that in a way. So like I used to be kind of weak at even things like podcasts and public speaking and talking. Like I was great at talking when I could edit it, but like when it was in front of a live audience or in front of other people or something like that, I'd be a bit more nervous and I'd mess up my words. So like a big part for getting out of my comfort zone is just always trying to do something I don't want to do. And I suppose just seeing how if I sink or swim.
Tell me a few more topics that are really, really big for people. And one that I especially emphasize on this podcast is personal development and this whole kind of mindset thing. I feel that especially on YouTube, when you're doing like videos about yourself, that there is a personal development to it. Especially on the first time, if you're not used to being in front of a camera, like taking a camera, putting yourself out there is kind of a big step for people. And I think with time, as your channel grows, you're kind of confronted with more and more of these like things that are on your psychic level, emotional level, you know, like exposing yourself a little bit more and all of that. So I feel that YouTube kind of has it automatically ingrained in how the process goes. But where are you currently on? What are your thoughts on personal development, improving yourself, working on yourself, inner game, and all that stuff? And maybe the question right afterwards, which is also kind of connected to personal development for me at least, is money. And I know that a lot of people start YouTube just because of money, to make an income, and not just like because they're enjoying videos, but more because they've seen like, oh, I made $1 million on YouTube, right? And then want to jump on it. What are your kind of thoughts on these two topics?
Well, first of all, with personal development, like it's a quite loose term, obviously, so it can encompass a lot of different things. But for me, like the kind of way I view it is everything I do in terms of personal development, in terms of improving my skills, I try to do them with things that are definitely going to have an impact on what I'm doing. So like I kind of think that a lot of people can get so caught up in the personal development space and learn a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily relevant to what they're trying to do. So like, for example, I could read loads of books on how to start like a tech business or, you know, a different kind of business that's not what I'm doing right now. And sure, I could learn from them, but like in my like immediate viewpoint, like something like building an email list and, you know, speaking better on camera and writing better scripts. So I just read a book on storytelling. I can't remember the exact author, but it was really good. What was it called? It was like Effective Storytelling, I think was the name of the book. And like things like that I just know will contribute to my videos. and they'll contribute to me as a person as well. And like, for example, if I was to read a book on effective consulting or how to build a personal brand, that obviously feeds into what I'm doing. But I think, some people can get so caught up in that idea of like self-improvement, which is very important, but they can try and improve things that don't need improving in some ways. So like, I don't really get too caught up into the kind of the whole like routines and the kind of, the mantras and the kind of habits, the habits of highly successful people and stuff like that, because I think I can learn a lot. We can learn a lot from them. But for me right now, I'm an individual, and what someone else has done and what's worked for someone else might not work for me. That's my big mindset with it. So I try to like build my own habits and my own routines and my own, like I source my own information I think will feed into what I'm doing, because otherwise I could just get so conflicted with all these different viewpoints of like, you should do this, you should do that, you should like have this business, you should grow your business like this, you should start waking up at 5 a.m. You should start sleeping into 5 p.m. You could like read all these like kind of conflicting things. And I think a lot of it is just down to like, does it work for you? And does it feed into what you're doing on a daily basis? So storytelling, for that book I read, which is technically a personal development book, that has a huge impact on what I do. It's going to really help me. Like I picked up some interesting takeaways over like how to structure my stories and different techniques and stuff like that. That's going to help me. But if I was to read a book on how to start a Silicon Valley $1 billion company, that actually I'd probably learn a lot from it, but it won't feed into what I'm doing right now. And in that case, it's not really relevant to me, I suppose. But like in terms of the money, like could you kind of repeat again what you were sort of
I feel
suggesting?
that money is a big question for people. I feel that it's not talked enough about. I feel that schools are doing a terrible job of preparing people for their lives. And I just feel that people get into a rut with debt, stupid habits, things like that. And rich people maybe don't even share enough of like how other people can kind of get to it. I agree with your previous advice that you should stick to what works for your own self. But in terms of money, I just generally feel that it's not discussed enough in a normal way, not like in a braggish way. But what are some of your thoughts on like what are some good money habits, how to manage money, and what does money represent for you in your life?
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the Uncle Gold podcast. If you want to support this whole project, make sure you go to the second channel called Uncle Gold Podcast Clips. There I create short form videos with the best topics from the interviews that I do on the main channel. You get their videos daily. They're separated nicely into playlists so you can choose the topic that you want to watch most. And now let's go back to the video.
Yeah, okay. So that's interesting. I suppose I have some interesting points of view on it. So it's kind of, especially in Ireland, I think, I don't know if it's like this from Croatia as well, but like in Ireland, we have this weird relationship with money, and definitely where it's kind of like hush hush. Like everyone doesn't really want to talk about how much they're making or how much they could be making or how much the fella down the road is making, or it's kind of like all gossip and stuff. And I think as well, like what you said there about schools and education is a very good point. Like, I mean, I went to school for, what was it, 12 years, or it was longer than that, wasn't it? I don't even know how long I went to school for.
Nobody
That shows how
mentions
much I
it.
know. But it was never mentioned. Like I never heard anything about money. Like I think I did a module in like fourth year school, and maybe where they like talked about something about tax. Maybe, like I don't remember it though. That just tells you everything you need to know. And like that's a problem. And like I just really wish there was like a module in school, a compulsory module that just taught people how to manage their finances and like build a healthier relationship with money. Because I think you only have to look at like Irish people who do get a lot of money and see that they're quite wasteful with their money. So like a lot of like Irish celebrities, they end up, a lot of them end up in really sad situations where they're spending a lot of money there, drugs, drink, violence, all that sort of stuff. Like, I don't want to point any fingers at McGregor or anything, but like, you know what I mean? Like people, the money can kind of go to their head, and I'm not saying that's what's happened to him at all, but like, I just mean in general, like, I don't think there's that much financial literacy in Ireland. Like, I don't think people are really up to speed with how to manage their personal finance. So like, I learned a lot of what I know about finance through books and through listening to, other YouTubers, people like Graham Stephan, and Nate O'Brien. If you've ever seen his channel, he's actually a friend of mine. We talk a good bit, and he's a good guy. But I learned a lot from these guys, and I think in America they have a different relationship with it, where it's much more out in the open, and like people kind of are more willing to discuss it. But at the same time, I think, so for example, I could make a video breaking down how much I'm making at the moment and how I've got 7 income streams. on my channel and, you know, stuff like that. But I'd always feel there'd be a certain hesitation to think that this guy, you know, he's taking himself too seriously, or maybe this guy is bragging. And I know a lot of people just say, oh, I'm not saying this to brag, but I just made, you know, 600,000 on YouTube this year, whatever. But like, it kind of is to brag in a way. Like you're not just doing it for the value, you're doing it for the money that the views will give you. And, you know, I think maybe more people being transparent about that would be great in Ireland than in the world. And like in terms of money habits, so like I basically try to spend as little as possible on wants and on things that I don't really need, but anything on my business, anything to do with making videos, anything to do with like conducting my business, whether it be a laptop, a computer, like I will spend as much as I think is needed. So like obviously you can see lots of equipment around me. Like I've got a really good computer. My computer cost me like €4,000. Like I spend a lot of money on things that can contribute to my business because, well, first of all, I can write it off as a business expense. So obviously that lowers my tax bill, but also it's just a different way of viewing things, that you can view expenditure as ways to generate you more income. And like, even like that's obviously for someone with a small business, but even for like your average kind of, you know, just consumer or employee or whatever, like there's lots of things you can spend money on that will end up generating you money. And some of that could be just literally like, you know, actually investment accounts, like buying stocks and shares, like saving more money, building a pension. Like that's technically spending money in a way, because you're spending money towards your future rather than on just what's in front of you. And yeah, just, I think a lot of people try to source, this is a bit deep, but I think a lot of people try to source their, like, you know, other people's opinions based on what they own and what they have. And, you know, like this is a 10-euro hoodie. You know, like I don't really care what clothes I'm wearing too much. And I don't like my expenditure is actually less than it used to be. Like I'm making about like 10 or 20 times what I used to make, and my spending is less than when I was like 20 or 21, which is kind of interesting to think. My spending on myself is less. Obviously on my business it's way more, but on myself it's less.
Awesome. I love how you mentioned that it's a lot to connect with culture. Like in Croatia, if you're like really successful or have a lot of money, people automatically assume that you've done something suspicious, scammy, or borderline criminal to get there. And I think that's just wrong. Like I think there's so many people that made it in like a normal, honest, decent way and earned money through hard work and, like as you said, reading books, learning about it, not spending on stupid stuff, but investing into something that helps them. And I think that's a point to be discussed more by a lot of people, because I just feel that people don't talk about it now. There's also a phenomenon in Croatia, like people are like scared to talk about it at all. Like they just like avoid the topic, or like if you're really good with someone, then they'll open up after a few drinks maybe, but generally they don't like to go into it. But hey, maybe we change it with the Uncle Gold podcast, right?
That's it. Yeah. It's definitely a case of just breaking down the barrier a bit, and just making people realize that, like, first of all, a lot of people can generate a lot of money in very fair and transparent ways. And obviously I'm not going to get into politics here, capitalism versus socialism and stuff like that, but like in terms of just like what I'm doing, like I'm paying a lot more tax than I'd ever paid before, obviously, and providing a service, and in a way I'm just getting rewarded for what I can provide. And long may it continue. But also I think I'm smart enough to realize that this might not last forever. It might grow or it might decline. And I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people might start making a bit of money, and I'm not going to say it changes them, but like it changes their lifestyle. They can inflate their lifestyle, start spending more money, start that moment in the supermarket where you're thinking of buying something and then you're like, no, I'll leave it. It's just too expensive. Like that moment goes for a lot of people, and they just start buying, just their expenditure just goes through the roof. And yeah, it's definitely education, and it's definitely insecurity in a way about showing your wealth rather than actually saving it and having it for years to come.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely a big personal development part to that, right? Having control over yourself and thoughts and emotions. Yeah, I agree on that one. A lot of people are jumping now on the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency investments. Do you have any thoughts about that? What's your general opinion there? I know that usually the audience is like 50-50. Some people are like all in on it, and some people are like completely against it, like, no, it's a scam. Like, where are you with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies?
So I own a considerable amount of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. So obviously I'm biased, but I view it as a sort of investment that's it's very high risk, but obviously it's high reward. And I think there's just as much chance as Bitcoin hitting zero as there is a Bitcoin hitting a million. And to some people that's scary, but to me that's an opportunity, because if I can put in a bit of money, and I think, if there's a 50% chance this could hit a million, like, it makes sense. But every time I invest in Bitcoin, it's money I can lose. And that's something like a lot, actually, just through my Instagram stories of mentioning how I've been investing in cryptocurrency. I've had so many people like DM me, ask me how to start, like how much they should invest and stuff like that. And like, I really try to not give any advice. I'm just like, this is what I use, but honestly, just invest what you can afford to lose, because, the last thing I want to do is tell everyone to buy something and then a dip happens and they all just get really nervous and sell. But if you're asking me for my like specific opinion, like I listen to really smart people on a lot of things. So like anything that I'm not too familiar with, so like investing, finance, cryptocurrency, I try to identify like the thought leaders and the really, really smart people, and not the people with agendas. So not people that are just trying to push crypto because they have crypto. People that are actually like economists with reputations, hedge fund managers, Paul Tudor Jones, Raoul Pal, Shamath. These are like investors that have big reputations and they're all in on Bitcoin. They're, investing in Bitcoin. Their funds are investing in Bitcoin. Actually, Raoul Pal is a macro investor that used to work with Goldman Sachs, and he has like 95% of his net worth in crypto, which sounds crazy, and it probably is a bit crazy. So I don't recommend that at all. But yeah, like I really think that's my mentality. Just listen to people that I think are smarter than me and that have kind of disruptive ideas. And in my opinion, like I don't think Bitcoin is going to go below 20K again. It might temporarily, but like not for not long period of time anyway. And I think the potential upside within like this year is pushing 100K based on what I've seen, based on the models I've looked at. And then long term, if Bitcoin works like people say it's going to work, there's no way it doesn't hit 500K a coin if it works like people say it works. Because if Bitcoin hits the same market cap as gold, so the same valuation as gold, which I mean, Bitcoin could be perceived as more useful for gold in terms of use cases. Like you can use it as a store of wealth, quick transactions. You can also use it for, like, the blockchain is amazing with Ethereum as well. And I think, it has more utility than gold, and gold's market cap applied to the Bitcoin model would mean that at 21 million coins in total, the average price of coin would be like 550,000 or something along those lines. So yeah, it's interesting. It's risky, but it's exciting.
Yeah, I agree on everything. I also look at a lot through technology, because in the last 2 years I worked a lot with developers and people working on like IT projects, and it's still new, but from everybody working on the technology, they say it's amazing. So I think that in a few years, we'll see a lot of companies just like switching over to the blockchain technology just as a concept, not directly related to Bitcoin, but actually really directly related to Bitcoin, right? Because if a lot of people switch over to it, the value has to increase. And I think it will just like automate a lot of systems online, a lot of apps will transfer to it, and we'll see a lot of dApps popping up, and people just start using it more, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm kind of bullish as well.
Hey, I hope you're getting value out of this video. I wanted to provide some value back to you and tell you about this tool that I use to make my videos better. It's called TubeBuddy, and it's a free Chrome extension. It basically gathers all your data from the channel and helps you analyze, organize everything from thumbnails, titles, keywords, to analyzing your competitors. And you can use it to create better YouTube videos for yourself, or to just get a better overview on other people's channels. And if you use the affiliate code below in the comments, you will get a small discount on purchasing their package options. But as I said, TubeBuddy is a free extension tool, and if you use the code BORNATubers, you get a small discount and help me with the whole channel. But let's get back to the video now.
All right, Paddy, I usually like to end the podcast on some positive note with some like ideas and thoughts to help people in their lives and everything. And the podcast is called the Uncle Gold Podcast because I think that people should be looking for their own quote unquote gold in life, right? Tell me, do you have some parting words for everybody still listening until the end?
Yeah, well, okay. Let me think of something profound to say. Like I think like whenever I get asked this sort of question, and like, I always say like I'm obviously not a motivational speaker or anything like that, but I think there's something I can say that a lot of people resonate with, and that is it's not as far away as you think with YouTube. So like people see YouTube, they see the flashing names, they see the big channels, they see the, you know, the money, they see these guys making millions. But for every person that's making millions, there's loads of people making 100,000 a year, 50,000 a year, even like 25,000 a year. Like, it's easier to match your current income on YouTube than you think, and you need less views and less subscribers than you think. So I know multiple channels that have got between 50K to 100K to 150K subscribers, and they're making, you know, 4 or 5K a month, 6K a month, 10K a month off their channels. And to like the average person, that might sound crazy because you're kind of used to seeing these big numbers of millions of views and expecting that's where all the money is made. But YouTube is only growing, and there's just so much opportunity there to build an audience. And like the real way I describe it is like, what is the thing you're like that just makes you like not be able to sleep? Like I like last night I couldn't sleep like 2 a.m. because I was thinking about YouTube. I was thinking about like a certain data set, like a certain thing with YouTube's algorithm that I was trying to figure out. Like I was just going through spreadsheets. I was going through different data for channels trying to figure out something. And like, that's how I describe it. It's not always about like, I suppose, passion and love, but for me, it's like something that I'm just obsessed with. Like, I'm just obsessed with YouTube. I'm obsessed with growing on YouTube, with building audiences, with helping other people on YouTube. And that's what I do. And I think, you know, if you can find something you're really passionate about, it's a lot easier to monetize it than you think. Like, if you can get 1,000 people paying you $100 a year, like, do the maths. Like, that's more than you're probably making in your job right now to a lot of people, you know? And that's not as far away as people think. And that's what I'd really, I suppose, end on. Just keep the head down, keep working on it. And sure, not everyone's going to win, but when you look back on the work you've done on YouTube, even in the worst case scenario where you didn't grow or you didn't build a business or didn't monetize, you've probably made connections, you've learned skills, you've learned determination, and like the skills on YouTube are really monetizable now. So like even things like thumbnail making, editing, graphic design, and all those jobs, like they're positions that are being formed for roles that are really necessary in YouTube, like channel management, strategy, data analysis, thumbnail making, all that sort of stuff, which are stuff that a YouTuber just simply can't balance all on his own. And that's a parting sort of thing I always think about. There's like very little downside to working on a YouTube channel, because in many cases you can do it without completely devoting your life to it at the start anyway. And the skills you learn, the connections you learn, and the potential upside of potentially doing something you love for a living. Like right now, I love YouTube, and that's what I do for my living. And I make a lot more than I could make in any other job doing that. So that's the dream. And I'm just so grateful for that. And I think it's a good way to end to say, you're not as far away as you think, and keep at it.
Awesome. Paddy, I know that you said that you're not a motivational speaker, but to me, those are some very motivational words, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. I feel that a lot of people are going to start their YouTube journey soon because of this whole lockdown and working from home and all of that. And I highly agree on the last sentence that you said, where you can actually work on something that you love, because a lot of people might be stuck in jobs that they don't really love. So we'll take your advice to heart, and we'll keep working on it. Everybody who's still here with us, I know that attention spans are getting shorter, and this was a bit longer podcast, but I think we've gone through a lot of useful stuff. Thank you for listening, and Paddy, thank you for being on the Uncle Gold podcast again. I would love to have you again if you want to chat more about more details about data and monetization and creating videos. I see that you really have a passion for it, and I would love to talk more to you in the future.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. And how about I come back when I'm on 1 million subs?
It's a deal. We'll do it. Thank you again for taking the time, and thanks for everybody listening. We'll leave all the links to Paddy's channel and social media down below in the comments. Please leave us a comment on what you liked best from this. What are some of the things that you learned that you haven't heard before? And what are some of the decisions that you made for 2021? And are you going to start a YouTube channel soon? Thanks, everyone. See you in the next video.
The Uncle Gold Podcast.